All right, it is 6:30. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Tonight we have Steve Whitman, Bonnie Sears, myself, Rebecca Hansen, Bill Bolton, Marianne Barnsley, Brian Murphy from the town. I'm going to start off just saying that one of our members has resigned. Chris Buckley won't be here with us, and I would like to just acknowledge his great service on this board, and he will be missed as a member of the planning board.
Also the Conservation Commission as well. I don't know if he's still going to be on that or.
All right. So next up, a review of minutes from the meeting on December 19th. These were the minutes where the video and audio failed, right? So it's a quick read. And it looks like there's a couple blanks. I don't remember what time we opened or closed the hearing.
Right.
So.
And sometimes I get the opening of the meeting, but I'm so excited at the end, I never do the time.
It was very quick. I want to say it was, I mean, I could estimate the time of the first one, but I don't think it's going to be correct, so. My only comment is, can we move there is a bullet under C that says a technical problem prevented most of the meeting from being recorded and available to the public. It's kind of buried under at the end. Either, I'd say at the very end or at the beginning. Put it one or the other.
Where was it first mentioned?
It's right above the second to last motion on page 3.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
It's that last bullet.
Oh, and the date certain above that should be January 2nd.
So were there conditions for accepting the application? That's what it says on page 2 in red. Bill made a motion to accept the application with
saw that.
conditions.
I think that was mentioned, but I don't know if it was approved or anything.
Carried unanimously.
Yeah, I just don't remember.
Oh,
What would conditions of acceptance have been?
I don't think we ever put conditions of acceptance on
No.
acceptance.
We could eliminate that
Yeah.
red.
That was from Brian's notes.
I think there was enough audio to start that she was able to get that, and it may have been the notes, though normally I just mark it on the agenda as who made the motion to accept and second.
Okay.
All right, so no conditions there, which reminds me that there were conditions on the motion to approve the application, though.
Yeah.
And that was the condition that the subdivision is approved on the condition that the wetlands permit is approved.
Right.
I'm not the only one that remembers that, right?
No, I remember that.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't until you said it. And under B on page 2, that carried unanimously. I believe it did. So it helped Brian resolve that.
What was that one, Steve?
Just the other item in red on page 2.
Oh, yeah, carried.
That the motion
unanimously,
carried
yeah.
unanimously on the one lot subdivision acceptance.
And I wonder if if we move the thing that says the audio was not there to the beginning, then we could just say, because there were, well, in the first one, I think there were no comments on the subdivision. I'm actually not sure that there were no comments on either of them. I know there were comments on the, gosh, there were comments somewhere. I don't remember which application. I know Frank said something at one of the
did,
applications,
yeah.
and I don't remember which one that was.
Well, the subdivision, I think, could be viewed as standalone, regardless of whatever else was happening. But the only reason that we put that condition in was because it failed the frontage requirements in the
Right.
zoning ordinance.
Right, no, but I'm just wondering where we had public speak at something, in one of these hearings, and I don't remember which,
Frank did speak
said
in
something.
favor of,
for one of the applications, I just don't remember which one it was. So, anyone in the
You
audience
might have
that was
spoken
there?
after Paul.
The second one, I think it's for the site plan review.
You think it was for the site plan review?
As well, actually.
Oh, that's right, yep. Thank you.
I probably can't comment because I was not sitting here, I was sitting.
I mean, I just asked the the audience for some feedback.
vouch
so-
for you.
But yeah, so there were comments in C, the site plan. There were comments in favor by Frank and Bonnie.
But not about the completion aspect of it.
No, this was, oh, did I miss the,
the site plan.
Yeah, because there was quite a bit of discussion about the site plan versus the wetlands permit and the civil engineering overview.
right, yeah. So I'm looking at that, but it says under C that public comments open, there being no comments, the public hearing was immediately closed. And we had 2 comments in that hearing in favor of the application.
Right.
Were they in favor to your recollection, Madam Chair?
Yes, both Frank and Bonnie.
That's right.
Frank's not here to say.
Well, this is a shame.
What's that?
This is a shame, actually.
Yep. Any other comments or a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes with the amendments.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, I'm just going to rearrange the agenda here. I'm going to put B before A, so next up we have guest speaker Don Jutton from Plymouth Village Water and Sewer District to give updates on improvements scheduled for the system. So,
Hi, I'm Don Jutton. I'm the part-time administrator, and Jason Randall is our superintendent. You may know him. We're here this evening to just kind of briefly update you all on what we're about to embark on. In November, the commissioners approved an $18 million package of water and wastewater upgrades, and we've begun preliminary design. We expect to be in the ground not this coming year, but the following year. We're here this evening kind of addressing you in your master planner's hats. We have a plan that Jason will hand out that will show you one of our major projects, which is downtown. And our hope is that you'll give some thought to what we're about to embark on in the context of your planning as you look down the road. Our hope is that together we'll be able to leverage a fair amount of work that we're doing in downtown. In its simplest terms, if the line is yellow or blue, we're going to be messing with it. And so, as you can see, there'll be a fair amount of disturbance of the area in the downtown, and we're hoping to coordinate with you all, with the town, and reach out to the business community to try and sequence the work to make people aware well in advance and to coordinate our timing so to have minimal impact, knowing that you can't dig up roads and put in new water lines and sewer lines without having an impact. But beyond that, in other places where I've worked, projects like this can serve as a catalyst and can be leveraged for other ideas and other visions. And not knowing where you all are in your master planning process, we thought, since we have some lead time, we're really looking at construction in the 2001, 2002 cycle, that we have some time to be thinking about what other advantages or opportunities there might be, along with any input you have with regard to how do we sequence this, fit it in between the school schedule and the business schedule in the downtown. And we'll be taking a dog and pony show on the road, meeting with small groups of businesses. Our plan at the end of the day is to essentially meet with all of the impacted business folks to get their input and to try and factor that into how do we do this in a way that's the least possibly disruptive. And that's what I have to say. We're happy to come back. If at some point you want to focus on this in more detail, we'll make our engineers available to talk about kind of the underground challenges and issues, and try to coordinate with you in any way that you think is helpful and appropriate.
Ask a question?
Yeah.
And Brian may know this, I haven't had a chance to talk to Brian, but some of our master plan implementation items directly relate to the downtown and relate to things that probably do work in conjunction with this if we could plan ahead, like some of the transportation improvements, sidewalks, stuff like that. Some of the stormwater stuff that's been talked about in South Main Street comes to mind. Our conversations about the issues down in down the hill. So I just don't know if the planning board could serve in a role or assist in some way so that it's not just the staff and the select board that have to do it. If there's any kind of meetings or committees or stuff like that, because I was on the Main Street board when the roundabout and the 175 bridge went in, and the coordination, I think, really helped that disruption not be so bad.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's a single artery into town, so
Right.
it's going to be tough.
It will be.
You know, there are ways around it from South Main Street. You know, and that's just something, it is what it is, you know, and the more forewarning the people get, I'm not going to say it's going to make them any happier, but at least they can make accommodation to that. We did have some discussion this morning concerning Railroad Square.
Okay.
Myself and a couple of the select board members and Kevin French. So in the not too distant future, all of the abutters along there, and that comprises a good portion of the properties along South Main Street because they run front to back, will be invited to a meeting to talk about laying out a road down there and specifically a utility easement. So
That's awesome.
you know, it was something that Joe and I had been discussing in the past, and we kind of laid it out, and it was pretty much time, I think, to revisit it after 10 years or more, actually 15, perhaps 20 years is when the last time that TIF district was formed down there.
Right.
But because it's everything that both the district and the town's needs pass through that area, and because there's no, I mean, I'm sure you guys have easements in place for a lot of your infrastructure. I doubt that we do because it's just of a historic nature. You know, it's by prescription, by time, essentially at this point. But we can straighten a lot of that out and, you know, seek to develop that property. So that'll be a conversation that'll be held this year, hopefully, probably within the next couple of months, with the stakeholders down there and probably what the district, definitely the town, and we'll see what we can come up with. But first off, we just want to lay it out as this is what we'd like to do, and let's see what the drawbacks are to try to accomplish this in a timely manner. If it could be improved even slightly prior to the commencement of your project, it's going to take a lot of the load off of the downtown traffic.
Right.
It doesn't help the merchants any, but at least people will be able to get through town and beyond.
So there was quite a list of individuals that we were going to contact to invite them to a meeting, to include Jason and Don, but maybe to include Rebecca and or designee on that as well. Yeah, because that was an oversight.
I just think anything we can do to help provide support, because anything that, if we can collaborate, this is going to be challenging as a community, but if we can collaborate and do some of the other things that we have kind of failed to do, that we haven't had the funding for, if we can find other sources of funding, I don't know.
Well, there may be. We've discovered Brian was with us at a meeting, and we may be in a unique position. There is, I'm not sure of the details at the moment, but there is supplemental disaster relief dollars that are available exclusively in Grafton County for the next 2 years. And they'll be administered by EDA and Rural Development. This is the first time they've been kind of forced to work together. But we understand that because Plymouth is a opportunity zone, that you walk through the door with points. And so there may be opportunities. We heard of the meeting we were at. We actually heard about funding that could be 80% grant.
Wow.
For municipal projects. So
I think Rebecca liked that.
Yeah.
it's a little ambiguous, but
Right.
At this point, because it's not clear. But what we know is that Plymouth is uniquely situated because of being in Grafton County, but more specifically, it's one of only a handful of opportunity zone communities. And so if we can figure it out collaboratively, I mean, there are things, the nice things about having a district is there are things we can apply for as a separate entity, and then there are things the town can apply for as a separate entity, where in municipalities where water and sewer and the town are the same entity, they get one bite at the apple, we may actually get two. So the extent to which we've got some folks at the table who have some energy to focus on and have some ideas of what should be done. I know that kind of environmental impacts and sustainability are a big deal at this point with both rural development and EDA. And rural development is in our projects in a huge way.
Other questions from the board? I think this was helpful for me to just hear this and see this. Anybody else?
I just think it's we spend a lot of time, and we have a lot left to spend on regulations, updating our regulations, and we spend a lot of time on application review, and those are important, but this is another important piece.
Yeah.
And this just seems like an opportunity that we should participate. So I'm happy to give some volunteer time to it, whether that's when you can't make it or if you don't want to do it, or if anybody else does. Like, Bonnie's had interest in economic development efforts, so if anybody else on the board wants to do it, I'm happy to tag along as well.
That's great.
I think I'm on it regardless, I think.
You're stuck?
I just had one question. I know this has got to be done, but what's this going to do to everybody's water bill, sewer bill?
It depends on how you define everybody. We spent
Well,
about
everybody that's
on the water and sewer system, right? I get that.
gets a bill.
But we've spent the last 8 months doing a very detailed analysis and have developed a tiered, structured system. And for the average homeowner, the impacts will not be significant. We built in a lifeline for low mod folks, and we've looked at structured it based upon more than single water usage. And so that will actually be implemented. It's the rate structure's been approved for implementation January 1 a year from now. And we will, we're redoing our website, and we'll be sending information out. But for the average home, the real impacts are going to be of the largest users. So the university, the hospital, some of the large big box stores are going to see an impact, but frankly, it's more of a redistribution of the costs than it is a dramatic difference. We've done a 20-year analysis, and so we've looked at it in terms of not only being able to pay the bills and repay the money that we're borrowing, but also to build reserves so that we won't be in a position of having to borrow substantial amounts of money as we go forward. So I think that probably sticker shock was this last year for people, and going forward, I don't think you're going to see I don't think the average person is going to see much in terms of increase. In fact, some areas will be minor decreases.
And any of this, will it affect the quality of water that we do get? The town water, I know right now, is, you really don't want to drink it, because I get town water and it smells like chemicals. Is this going to have anything to do with that, or is it still going to be, we'll go buy bottled water?
Well, we're exploring another well source at this point. We've been authorized to proceed with a full-blown testing, which will happen in another 2 weeks or so. That potentially will have some positive impact on it, but overall, what we're talking about is the infrastructure in the ground, the pipes that get the water to your house and the sewer away from it.
Okay, thank you.
And, so we just wanted to hit on two other projects, beyond the map too, that we're also doing under this grant and loan package we have. One of them is, like Don mentioned, the Holderness Well site, which is just to the east of I-93, just off this map here. So that will be bringing water back over to the Plymouth side, and the quality of that water in preliminary testing has significant improvements over the existing water we have here. More with the aesthetics, like you mentioned, Bonnie. Another project that's not on this map that we are also doing under that package is the final phase of our Force Main 4 extension, which will be from the sewer force main that runs near Hannaford's and along Tenny Mountain Highway along the Baker River. We have made improvements up to around the back of the ball fields by the high school, and we'll be extending it from there all the way to the district office on Old North Main Street. So that will be along the Baker River as part of this package we have. So there's opportunities, like Don mentioned, for the big picture, looking at possible expansion out in the Tenny Mountain area, accommodations for planning, possible trail use. I know that's what some of the things that the planning board's been talking about, multi-use trail connecting Main Street to Tenny Mountain area. So there may be some work and collaboration along with that as well.
Thank you.
I know we have at least one property owner in the area. I don't know if we want to open up the comment.
Oh, we can, does anyone, since we've got folks here, would anyone like to ask a question, or?
Looking at the map, obviously I know we have the big.
Sorry, do you mind just saying
my
your
name's
name?
Nick Mason. I'm a resident of Plymouth and also run a primarily student landlord business known as North Star Rentals. Our property on South Main Street is 40 Main Street, which if you've been here for a long time would be known as the Greasy Wheel Bike Shop. Completely apartments these days. My concern, obviously, we want the thing done expeditiously, and most business owners, that's going to be the primary concern. My concern is all these, what is the plan for all the lateral lines coming from all the properties to your new main stem? There has to be, obviously, some things are going to possibly fail a visual inspection. Is there going to be potential grant money, or is there any sort of cost savings for people who are looking to take on, an upgrade to their lateral line at the time of this going in, so that we don't have to come back in as they fail over the next 5, 10, 20 years? Is the plan just to connect 100-year-old infrastructure to the new infrastructure?
No, sure. So yeah, that's a great question. Along the South Main Street portion from about the intersection of Warren up to the town common, is you're correct, it's about 100-year-old infrastructure in there. And our plan as of right now, our preliminary design, is to replace the water and sewer services up to the curb stops or property lines is what the plan is. So just like your responsibility now is from the curb stop to your building, that will remain the same, but there will be an opportunity there during the construction and during the interruption to replace that. But we don't have funding in place at this time for that portion. The portion that will be replaced will be completely under the roadway and under the sidewalks will be the replacement up to a new shut-off and curb stop. Yep.
While you're up there, Jason. Correct me if I'm wrong, the responsibility lies on the homeowner's side from the building to the main, correct?
For sewer.
For sewer, okay.
Yeah. But for water, the
To the curb
responsibility is
stop.
to the curb stop.
Or
That's
the
where
property
delineation-
line, whichever.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And it goes through both, I mean, they're like, the sewer line definitely is like under the sidewalk outside of our building. I don't know where along the
Right.
way, where it crosses.
So that's correct too. That's a good point to point out, is that the sewer line on South Main Street is in the west sidewalk, the sidewalk to the west, and the water line is about in the parking spaces on the east side. So one of the major hurdles we have in that section as well is we have existing concrete road bed, and that's still something that's being considered under our preliminary design, whether we decide to replace that or to jack new services underneath that concrete. DOT has strict regulations on the concrete, as we probably know from Northern Pass coming through with their preliminary plans. Any major disruptions will require the entire slab to be removed, which has much more significant costs than potentially jacking under or open trenching. So it's a matter of figuring out where those services are exactly. I believe there's about 24 within that stretch that need to cross the road. So that's something we are contemplating at this time, which direction to go in on that, and trying to collaborate and work with New Hampshire DOT as well, to see what their plans are. Initially, they were planning this year or this past year to overlay that entire road section. So that's part of what we have been in discussion with them, if they can delay that until we do this work, and they're willing to do that for us. So there is some contribution there of the final paving course potentially. Thank you.
All right, unless there's no other questions, we will move on.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks, guys.
See you soon.
So next up, a continuation of a site plan review of an application from Mike McGinley, owner PID number 212-046. This is a proposal to continue commercial development at Riverside Landing by constructing a building pad above flood level adjacent to Tenny Mountain Highway. This parcel is in the agricultural zone. So, welcome back. Oh yeah, and Bonnie is recusing herself. Oh, this brings up, since you're leaving the discussion table, this brings up an issue that we don't have a quorum.
4, right?
We have 4, a quorum is 5.
5 out of 7, it's 4 out of 7.
Yeah, 4 out of 7.
Our bylaws say 5.
Really?
It says, our quorum says 5 voting members of the board shall constitute a quorum for the conduct of business.
I mean, that's,
It's a fixed number. It's not a percentage of our total.
Right.
no, like any other.
Right.
I mean, it's 3 out of 5 for the
Yeah.
CBA, it's 3 out of 5 for the Board of Selectmen.
It needs to be changed. Another motion?
We need a public hearing, right, to change our bylaws, or can we just change them? Because,
Well,
we don't have a quorum if one person is gone, just because these are who we have
So
for,
I can't, just because I'm in a butter, I can't be there, right?
you can't
Right.
vote.
Because just, okay.
I'm, gotta wonder if that's a typo. It's so
We have 6
weird.
members at the start of tonight. Chris has resigned, so we're down to 5 in
Yes.
total.
Yep, we have 5 total members, including you as an alternate.
Right.
I'm the only officer, so we we also need to deal with that.
Can Bonnie just abstain from voting?
Well, we need a vote,
Need a
though.
vote for the quorum.
No, she needs to recuse herself from the whole conversation. The bylaws may be amended by majority vote at any duly noticed meeting of the board, provided the proposed amendments are read at one meeting preceding the vote.
For God's sake.
So, yeah, so
because it's already been continued to tonight, can
Yeah.
we go through the process, even if we can't vote, and give them the most direct feedback we can?
Yep,
So
and
that
then,
on the 16th,
and we can read the change
we
to
can
our
read this
amendments.
change tonight, so we can make the
Yep.
change on the
Yeah.
16th.
Yep.
Is that the fastest way?
It's kind of the only way, I guess.
I think this, yeah,
Only legal avenue.
yep.
So I guess a motion to that, to change the bylaws is needed. That would be the duly noticed
We need
part.
we need to read the change to our bylaws that, yeah. Provided that the proposed amendments are read one meeting preceding the vote. So we'll just need to say that we
I'll do a motion.
Well, yeah, wait,
Read it.
we can do that at the
Do it at the end?
end, yeah, so not
All
to
right.
interrupt this. This is all not what we expected to be doing.
No.
And as I counted, I forgot that Bonnie recused herself for this, so this is something we're gonna be dealing with if we don't fix this now, but I don't wanna take a vote and have it be not a quorum. It makes us vulnerable, so.
However, with only 6 members, or 5 at this point, isn't that kind of out the window? Or the fact that the whole...
Bonnie can sit on that vote.
On the
Right,
vote.
right. But what I'm saying is the board, well, there's 5 members, so we had 5, so never
So at
mind.
the start of the next meeting, we'll do it, we'll vote, assuming everybody goes for it. We'll be able to change the number of the quorum and be able to
Yes,
continue.
Okay.
okay,
Can we vote to continue, though? I mean, I think we have to vote to continue.
Yeah, I think by default,
Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah,
right.
assuming if it's not a majority vote, then it's something we have to think about, but, yeah.
I think it's in everyone's best interest to continue.
Need some more volunteers around here.
We do.
Yeah.
Would you like to give a pitch right now while you're on television?
Yep. We desperately need more members. Okay, so back to business. Where we had left this was this was all pending the review of the town engineer, who's provided comments as of today. Have you had a chance to see these?
I have, and I've spoken with Mike
Good.
on the phone, and I spoke with Brian. You know, all of these are. We've actually made a lot of the revisions already. He wasn't looking at the wetland application package, so a lot of these things have been addressed there. And I talked with Mike, and we'll provide him with the flood study, and the planting plan is already in the plan set. So, yeah, I mean, we can address all of these things and make it a condition of approval. Most of them are kind of little notes here and there, so.
Would it be helpful for the board to kind of go through them one by one, just to hear them addressed? I think it's helpful for me just to hear what they are, putting, you know, if we were to take all of them, putting 8 conditions on an approval that's a lot of conditions, but if they're tiny things.
Some of these are more
that-
notes, like you
Right.
said.
So I think just hearing how many are, you know, true conditions would be helpful
Right.
as we move forward.
Sure. Yeah, I think I was referring to more just addressing all the comments on this letter as a condition of but I can step through them and then we'll see how you'd like to address it. The first comment is just to clarify what the application is requesting, which is, you know, he's outlined exactly what we talked about, which is it's the excavation and fill required to prepare the development, the box culvert crossing, and the driveway access. And so we would concur with that. You know, we'll come back when we're prepared with final building footprints, you know, a more precise parking layout, utilities, drainage. So, second comment is referring to the flood study, which we have and are finalizing today, actually, to submit to AOT. So that will be provided to Mike for his review.
And the wetlands and AOT approval are always conditions of an approval from us, so.
Right. And the flood study is a part of the alteration terrain review as well. So in addition to Mike, the state will be reviewing that as well. Number 3, the slope at the north end of the flood compensation area parallel to the river. So I think he's referring here to the compensation basin is going to be excavated a little bit more along the river to a point within about 75 feet of the river. So he's just asking for us to note those dimensions so that it's clear how far from the river the excavation limits are, and then to note the slope and the stabilization method, which we will do. Number 4, finished surface treatments. Yeah, so it was kind of already covered in the notes on our plans, but we'll make it more clear that the excavated areas will be treated with topsoil and native seed, areas that are not planned to be planted as wetland creation areas. Number 5, created wetlands. So this is where he's asking for the wetland planting plan, which we have in the plan set that went for wetlands. So we'll show him that. Number 6 is requesting clarification on the potential trail. So we can, our understanding of the agreement is that Mike will construct access down the slope to a point at the bottom, essentially, and then from there he'll grant access to the Conservation Commission and the town to construct their own walkway in an approximate configuration like we've shown.
So can it just be a note that just says that?
So we'll just put that. I think what he's asking for is kind of a delineation of who's doing what, right? So like responsibilities. We will add a note on the plan for that. Number 7. We had a couple of notes on there because we haven't gone to final design on there's a geotechnical engineered slope, reinforced slope along the perimeter. So it's got the stone lined, and it's also got geogrid that goes back into the fill material because it's steep. So that final design will happen prior to construction, but it wasn't a part of this plan set. It's similar to what we've done on other ones. So he's just asking that he be provided with that design at that time. Similarly, on the box culvert, we didn't do the structural design on the concrete and the reinforcement for the box. It's a precast structure, but it's big, so we've noted, I think, that Mid-Sheet Corp provide it or equal kind of a thing. So typically what will happen is the contractor will go to the precast supplier, they'll provide a stamped plan that's appropriate for the site and meets the size that we've spec'd. So he's asking to see that as well, which we can provide him prior to construction. And then the last one, number 8, he's just noting that he looked up the DOT access permit, which and he's just noting that there is an existing permit and an update will be required, to show a new design, and we'll get a DOT permit for that. That's the summary.
Thank you.
You guys have any questions or?
Sounds like quite a few of those will be resolved before the 16th.
Right.
Anyway, so.
So the ones that can get thrown on the plans, place, yeah.
Carefully place them.
Yes, carefully placed in your professional style. Once those are put on the plan, since we have these extra 2 weeks, then really the only conditions need to be would be the number 7, I think. And then just any necessary permits, so AOT, wetlands, so, okay. Any other questions, comments from the board? Or I'm going to open it up for the public hearing. It is 7:10. Opening this up to the public, if anyone wishes to speak any nature about this application, now is the time. All right, still 7:10, closing the public hearing, bring it back to the board. Anything else before we vote to continue this to a date certain of
16th?
16th of January?
Just,
Brian?
is it appropriate to weigh in on this with personal, I mean, it's not really before you at this point. The decision is still dangling out there in a couple of weeks. I just don't want to get any feeling of having this preloaded. But I would ask that any conditions be specified, that we would need. I mean, if you could do them by the numbers too, but that way we'd have a checklist at the next time. And
So we want
it's almost like, we're asking you what it would take to get this passed, even though I shouldn't be asking you to think about voting on it at this point.
I mean, it's going to be the same four of us sitting here.
Correct.
Everyone
But-
can be here on the 16th, right?
Hope so.
Yeah.
I think Will had something he wanted to share, first of all, but.
I was actually going to ask the same
Yeah.
thing.
I
Okay.
think that's
Because
good.
I think that your initial reaction was that this was a lot of conditions for an approval, but he just knocked off a bunch of them are going to go away. So, and I can't think of any others that we talked about last time that weren't addressed. I mean, the biggest thing was having Mike look at it, which has been done.
Yep. Aside from the pending applications, it's just boilerplate for us, boilerplate conditions on any
Yep.
approval. I don't see anything else. No, and when I said there's a lot of conditions, I was just looking at the pure number of them. So it's helpful to go through them and just be like, okay, this is addressed and this is addressed, and being able to address most of them before.
It essentially reverts to the boilerplate, doesn't it? That all other permits be
Yep.
obtained. Okay.
My one question / concern is the trail access point and how we can make sure that that is a, something that's there as part of this into the future. If there's another owner, how do we make sure that this access point, we could have, trail easements or something that just ensures that this access point maintains into the future. So,
If I'm not mistaken, the trail will, other than perhaps actually stepping from the parking lot down, will be held in the master, the same property as the compensation basin. So as far as who owns it going forward is going to be very clear.
but if the access point is owned, if we're accessing it from something that's not within that zone there, then if
Right.
you lose that access point, then you lose a major access point to that. What's the value of that trail if you can't access it right there?
Yeah, I was going to say the subdivision plan does have a note on it that requires access be provided from this parcel to the new one on the other side of Clay Brook. It doesn't necessarily say specifically how
Yep.
that's provided, but
Is there a note where you just have the access down from the parking lot, that it's the designated entrance to a future trail? So that at least it's a condition of a site plan, right? If they wanted to make other changes, get rid of sidewalks or stuff like
Right.
that, wouldn't that be a violation of their approved site plan?
Yeah, they could certainly come before the board and offer to change the location.
Right.
In keeping in the spirit.
Right. But it sounds like if it's documented here,
there's a note on the overview that says trail access.
you thinking you should have more than that?
I'm not sure. I just want to make sure that if, things change down the road, that access doesn't go away. So.
Well, and it may be back before a totally different planning board,
Right.
so that it's clear for them.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
And I don't know the mechanism for that, but I just, if we're doing all this work and part of the value of this conservation easement is the trail, then we should make sure that access is maintained. Or not maintained by you, but just the access itself is something that lasts in perpetuity. So, I don't know.
Should it be a condition of the site plan review approval? I mean, it's on the plans, but.
Yeah. I think if it's on the plans, if we think that that's enough to.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's,
Anything
if
else?
it's part of the site plan that's
Being held to.
approved, then there is enforcement
Right.
going forward. And it, like I said, the worst case scenario is the one I think I presented was they just need to move it,
Right.
but still maintain.
Okay. All right.
Anything else?
Okay, so, I
Can't take a vote.
yeah, so that's why we had the public comments. So hang on one second. We need to,
Open the public hearing?
I could just open the public hearing. Okay, I'm gonna open the public hearing again. It's 7:15. Lisa.
I just want to ask the board if the board has any questions for the Conservation Commission, since I am here representing the Conservation Commission on this matter.
Well, I think, are you satisfied with the degree that is delineated on the plan that, that this provides you access to that path that's going to be constructed and maintained by us?
Yes, as the plan has been presented to us, it meets our criteria for the recommendation that we gave to accept the 2 easement properties. That was definitely contingent on having that riverside path available. So that kind of implies access to it, but maybe not.
But are you asking about our thoughts on the 2 conservation parcels that are part of the mitigation, or about the site plan?
The Conservation Commission made that a package deal. for
I think
our
it's broken out in our
recommendation.
agenda, though. I think right now we're just dealing with the site plan.
Just with the site
We
plan,
can only deal with
yeah.
the site plan right now. But I think we have it on here to talk about the conservation easements next, right?
Yeah, just in order to deliver that to the Board of Selectmen.
Yep. Make a recommendation, so.
Yeah, and there was plenty of discussion and everybody seemed to be on board, so I don't think that's a quorum failure at this point.
Right, and I think that in our putting making sure that that access point is part of the site plan, I think is maybe slightly more binding than the Conservation Commission's recommendations to accept the land. So I think it's important for us to make sure we discuss that here as well, so.
Not to mention that there's going to be at least one more review of this site plan as an individual. So, and it may, up to 3 for that matter, depending on the development of the
Okay.
properties. So
See what you're saying, yep.
there'll be extra bites at that particular apple. If there's something that you see that you would like to, sharpen up, there will be an opportunity for that. But I think as a placeholder, that's sufficient, that just the potential granting of the site plan for this application is enough guarantee that there will be access, and that can be refined at a future date.
Can I ask Lisa a question?
Yeah.
Do you have anything you have issues with related to the compensation area and the planned wetland construction there? Is that what you're?
Not as presented. I have personal concerns as a geologist about the permanence of that embankment and the compensation pit itself. But, as it stands right now, I'm happy with the designs that I saw.
Okay, I think that's where we ended up at the end of the last meeting, so we just wanted Mike's review.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing, 7:20. All right, so we need to continue this to a date certain of January 16th, preferably unanimously, but no pressure. So we can vote on it.
Can that just be an action of the chair? Because we can't vote on the continuation.
Wait, sorry, say that again?
Why can't it just be the action of the chair to,
Oh, I can do that?
Yeah. In this case, sure.
Oh, you have the gavel.
All right, I'm going to continue this to a date certain of January 16th. We'll vote in a little bit on a quorum of 1 coming up, so. So apologies for the delay. Unfortunately, there's not much we can do about this one, so, yeah, well. Yeah.
We'll make that motion tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So the next item is the conservation stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you might want to stay.
Yeah, so we need, our next administrative matters, a formal vote, and any recommendations to the Board of Selectmen on the town's acceptance of the proposed conservation lands. Oh, yeah, Bonnie
Can she come back?
Still in the butter.
Butter.
you abut the conservation land.
Yes.
Yeah, no.
You almost got to vote.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, she can vote on the one parcel.
So, I guess, does it need to be a formal vote of recommendations to the
No,
Board of Selectmen?
it could be, I believe, a sense of the meeting, and certainly, unfortunately, we don't have the audio from the last meeting, which would show that pending the conditions for the site plan review, but most of the discussion at this level concerned who would actually hold the maintenance easement. I think that the sense of the board was that everybody was for it, especially for the Claybrook piece,
For what?
because it's sensitivity.
Right.
But to accept that as a conservation land. And then the board recognized that they really didn't, I mean, that you offered a few alternatives to land trusts, but recognized that it wasn't your purview, that it was just suggestions and you know, as far as, we want you to use these guys, it would be, there are a number of them out there and you can kind of shop to find the one that works best for you.
At this point, this would be an indication that we approve the acceptance of the land for the town.
Correct.
The
That's all.
conservation easement is kind of a
Yes.
separate deal, so, sort of, yeah. All right, so signify by nodding your head up and down. Yeah, so it was my impression from the meeting that the board approves the acceptance of the conservation lands pending the approval of the wetlands permit.
Yes, that was the discussion at the point.
And I think the mention of land trust was just a recommendation.
Correct.
That if a land trust could be involved, who might now have a broader interest in the Baker River Valley, all of us as volunteers change, staff changes, it might be good to have somebody else involved. It was more of just a suggestion.
Yep.
And recognizing all the time during the discussion that it wasn't your decision to make. But that was kind of also relying on the fact that you guys had decided it was a good thing to accept the property.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's, unfortunately, you know, it would be a lot clearer if we had the video, but.
We can make a motion.
Yeah. I mean,
So
that's-
with this kind of general consensus, does it then go to the Board of Selectmen?
I guess when it's applicable or when it's appropriate, we'll bring it to the board, you know.
The recommendation or general consensus recommendation.
Yes, I have the Conservation
Yeah.
Commission's
Yeah, of the planning
recommendation.
boards, yeah. Acceptance of this land as pending the approval of the wetlands permit. Okay, I'm seeing nodding of heads, so. Yeah, you see those too, right, Bill?
Okay.
It'll be reflected in the minutes. Much head nodding.
All right,
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
all right. Bonnie, would you like to
Sure.
rejoin us?
Welcome back.
Thank you.
You know, I saved these giant plans from last time because I was like, I'll wrap Christmas presents in it. And I just found them.
Or no one got a gift, maybe.
That's also true.
Yeah, it's one, yeah.
In fact, my mom's is still sitting on my kitchen table. So.
Excellent.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Okay, so let's take a look at the bylaws.
Yeah, and I'm
That
ready.
Like really snuck up on me.
yeah.
You know, I was like, okay, there's 5 of us, and then as soon as you stood up, I was like, oh no, there's
Yeah,
not.
I know.
So we need to think about what we changed them to,
Well,
and is it
let's, so the existing language for the other, boards and commissions, what was quorum?
The other ones, it's, but they're 5-person boards. So it's 3 of the 5.
Does it have to say 3 or can it say majority?
Yeah, because, there might be like multiple people that had to recuse themselves, especially with like 2 pieces of property and you might have a couple of butters,
I mean, because if I don't show up as
Yeah,
not a real full-time person,
we don't have a quorum.
you don't have to elevate me to a vote.
right?
So then you're a board of 4. And so then if Marianne and I don't show up, you guys still have a quorum.
Yep. So we want
A
to
weak
change,
quorum, but
and I think we just need to put a pin in it. So we need to change it now because we need to function,
Yes.
and then we need to change it back when we have more members.
maybe not.
I mean, or we set it to something that's a majority of the board.
Yeah.
Because right now that's what we're doing, but because Steve's an alternate, that means that it's still tricky. I think we need to change it to 3.
do we have to specify the number though? Can we just say
Yeah, I don't think-
a majority of full board members,
Or,
We
yeah,
used to have a
seated.
board
seated.
that
seated
was
board
like-
members? And we don't have to
Why
just,
the others are written that way, though, as opposed to majority?
well, we have time to look into it, because we don't have to have the answer.
Yeah.
No, we
No,
have to
we
do
have
it
to
now
read it
for a
We
vote.
have to read it
next-
as it will be.
Yeah.
We have,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it says we have to, proposed amendments are read one meeting preceding the vote.
So, yeah,
I'm
we
tempted
have
to say simple majority, and then if there's a need to change it to 3 or something like that, we can do that at the
Yeah.
next.
You
Yeah.
want to exempt any board business from short boards? You know what I'm saying, that for, regular or non-approval meetings? And I don't want to, bind your,
I know what
at
you're
all.
getting at, though, yeah.
but sometimes like this thing about the letter, simple majority would be fine. I don't think anybody would have an issue with that. Nobody ever questions the vote on the Board of Selectmen side. However, at the ZBA, if you have a short board, you have to inform the applicant, and they have the opportunity to either go forward or withdraw until the board is full. That may be, I think that's in the RSAs, but it may just be a local bylaw
So
as well.
that's a short board of people that are actually serving on the board versus like a short board for this evening,
Right, I mean,
because we.
rarely happens that there's recusals at the ZBA level, don't ask me why. But, we see it here, because, there's developments.
Because Bonnie lives close to Tenny Mountain Highway.
Right, Bonnie, you gotta move.
Tonight was just a perfect storm of a resignation and a butter.
Yes. So, I mean, if you wanted to break it out that far, or go with what Steve said,
So-
that a simple majority of the seated members would be enough to conduct business.
I propose this. I'd say a majority of the board, but no fewer than 3.
Yes,
I like
well,
that.
it would have to be, because you couldn't form a majority with 2.
I like that.
I'm pretty persuasive. Yeah. So, does that work, that we are going to change Article
4C.
6?
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other page.
C, quorum number 1, we're going to change it to a majority of voting members or a minimum of 3 members shall constitute a quorum for the conduct of business. We'll vote on that next meeting.
So then the next meeting, because I won't be sitting here, I will be there.
You'll be sitting here for that vote,
I will?
Yeah, we'll do it right
for
away.
for the voting on this bylaw change.
Yeah.
Oh, for
Yeah.
that,
Because
okay.
then
If
we
we
can't-
don't, then we can't hear,
But
we
when-
can't finish with them.
Right, but when he comes back, then
Then you'll have to
need
step
3 of
out.
them.
Yeah.
3 of you
Yes,
guys here, so you
correct.
can do it. So, okay.
Yeah. All right.
When are we voting for the change? Tonight?
No, we can't. We have to read it into the record tonight.
Yes.
And we have to vote on it in the next meeting.
So Rebecca just read it out loud,
Yeah.
and so then we can do it at the beginning of the next meeting,
Okay.
the 16th. Is this a good time to talk about our strategy for getting more members?
It says that the appointing of members is the responsibility of the select board.
The chair, I was,
Yeah,
appointing.
so I think now is a great time to talk about appointing more members, because we're light, and also I'm the only officer, so we should think about a
vice
officer suite, which there really aren't very many.
That's typically done at March, the meeting after March meeting.
Right, but if I
Management of the board, but
if
that
I don't
doesn't
show up
matter.
next time, what happens? There's nobody, we don't have our non-recording secretary, we don't have our vice chair.
Yep.
So we have 3 months of that, and,
Well, we do have a vice chair right here who doesn't have, abutting entanglements.
Say what?
What else is that?
Well,
I mean, basically, it's fine, but if something
well,
happens.
we did have the vice chair step down, so we need to fill that seat, and it can be done tonight.
Right, so we can vote, we can do an officer suite, but our options are, I don't think Bill can be an
No,
officer.
And I can't.
Steve can't, so it's the three of us. I'm happy to continue being chair. Who wants to be vice chair and who wants to be the non-recording secretary?
No pressure. I'm just not sure I qualify to be vice chair.
Oh, come on.
I don't mind stepping in or whatever.
You wouldn't be alone. I mean, like when Chris has done it, when Rebecca's not been here, Brian and the rest of us had helped. We all figure it out together.
Right.
So you wouldn't be alone.
But I'm sure
Well,
Bonnie
or we
would
could.
prefer.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
You
I don't think I'd be good at it either.
So, am I allowed to propose myself as continuing as chair?
Yes.
And then,
Yeah, absolutely.
And Marianne as vice chair and Bonnie as the non-recording secretary?
That would be,
Is that good?
I could do that.
Okay.
I'd second that.
I think the only thing the non-recording secretary does is has the ability to sign plats in the absence of the chair and the vice chair. It's, like a corporate manager,
Yeah.
basically.
It's the only time you actually record something as the non-recording secretary.
That sounds
Okay.
good for me.
Well, that's a good
Do you want to
stopgap
speak in your
to
defense?
get us.
I can.
You're that popular.
Prepare for defense.
And this is a silly thing for me to ask. Am I even allowed to make motions?
Yeah, I think the chair can make a motion.
I never do.
You tend not to, but I think you can.
I can,
Or-
okay, then I move that we, this is my first motion in, like 3 years, that myself as chair, what I said a second ago.
Wow, talk about self-serving.
Marianne as vice chair and Bonnie as the non-recording. And you did the.
I just
you
seconded
already-
it.
Okay, so I
Yep.
did, I
With
remotioned that one.
enthusiasm.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Oh, was it seconded?
Oh, yeah, we can vote that. Can we vote on that? Wait a minute, yeah, we can, yeah. Okay,
So strategies for getting the word out. We've
Yeah.
done this a few
Seconded.
times,
Didn't hear Mary Ann vote, though.
but I don't know if there are strategies we found have worked.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure, I mean, we could certainly invite the Conservation Commission to send another representative.
Well, how did Mary Ann
Yeah.
and Bonnie, how did you
I think
each come to be on the planning
I think
board?
we need
Did
to do
somebody
that.
personally reach out to you, or was it from an ad in the paper?
I was at a meeting and I had some questions about the high taxes, and that's when somebody's on the board said to me, at the select board, said, would you like to be on the planning board? And I said,
Right.
yes, because I was,
Okay, so Bill, every time someone
Okay, so
speaks
there's
at
a
a select
personal-
board.
Grab a personal deal.
At every select board meeting, the chair announces that there are seats for both the planning and the zoning board.
It's a pretty tiresome announcement, though.
But,
yeah.
And the
I think
ZBA's
that-
been doing the same.
If we talk about effective
And we've
ways,
been
that
doing
seems to maybe not to be, keep doing it, please,
Well,
but.
I think getting a conservation member it would be
Yeah.
important and
Yes.
probably very doable, because they've got a pretty good, commission right now.
Yep, okay.
But,
no, that's all right, go ahead. I just had a comment, but it doesn't need to be right now.
but I think between us, we can probably start picking on, unfortunately, should have done it at that Ellsworth thing, but,
Yeah, there'll be other opportunities.
for those that are publicly known to you, you should probably invite.
Right.
Civic duty.
Everyone send an email to Grace.
Yeah.
She
I've
makes-
asked her.
Yeah, why is she holding back? Because I've asked her
She has
too.
other commitments, and she's
Okay.
been really involved with other things, and she's been nice enough to come and participate.
Yeah, I mean,
here.
she was really here and interested, and I thought,
Yeah.
this is a hot one for us, but then I asked her, she was like, I just can't do it at this point. I pretty much tapped out all my good favors.
Mary Ann, how did you get to the board?
Mine was a personal interest, actually.
Okay.
I went through and was like, I'd like to get involved. And
Okay. So be like Mary Ann.
I mean, that's
I
how
don't
I
get
ended
that
up here
very
too.
often.
Started with the Conservation Commission though, and then,
Yeah, I think the Conservation Commission is a good one for that, and, they're actually mentioned in the RSAs as, prime candidates, I think you would say.
yeah, but usually just one.
Yes, absolutely.
We can't take all of them.
But if somebody from the commission would be willing to do it, that'd be great. Okay, so we'll start talking to people, like soon.
Should I-
Have them
should I
send me
please-
letters of
please?
interest.
Want me
Okay.
to
Give them my
try to
email
grace that,
address.
or-
And you bring those
I can
letters to
send her
the
another
board of
email.
Yes,
selectmen.
Just be like,
absolutely.
we're really light right now. We could use you as an
I
alternate.
don't even vet
'Cause
it
even if it's
first.
just a bunch of alternates that are somewhat savvy on the process, I think that that's a good way.
Yep.
And I'm a big fan. I think anyone who gets involved who's never been on a planning board, there's no easy way to start, right?
No.
So you come and you have questions. And I think your questions are questions people at home have. And sometimes they're questions we have forgotten that we should be asking.
Yep.
So the questioning, I think, is one of the most valuable things.
I didn't speak for the first 9 months I was on the board, so except as, hi.
Because it takes time,
Yeah.
right? But question asking is really important.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to make a suggestion, and I don't know if there's a reason that we don't advertise this in some paper so everybody sees it, or is there a reason we don't want to do that?
We have done that.
I've never seen it.
No, we haven't lately, not since I've been here.
Right, but
I think we've
this
done it
is
as a letter
when
to the
we-
editor.
Oh,
I think that's how we've
Yeah.
done it before.
There you go.
Okay.
that's a good, yeah.
I think we did it for the Energy Commission is probably what I'm thinking about.
All
We
right.
did it
Because
As a
not
letter to the
everybody
editor.
watches these things.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
I can write a letter,
Sure, okay.
yeah.
And the Plymouth Record, I think a lot of people get that, and there's this free paper, or is it?
Laconia Sun.
Yeah.
the one?
Yeah,
More people, I think, kind of read that because it's free.
Yeah, I think so.
yeah. I can never get it out in front of the post office. It's always gone.
Yeah.
And it works well for our advertising, just because it comes out daily, and oftentimes it would put, if we use the Record Enterprise, it would be advertised 2 to 3 weeks prior to the actual meeting, and that, I think timeliness is a real factor when it comes to that stuff. Because, I mean, the people who are all involved, proximately are gonna get an abutter letter.
Right.
So it's just basically letting the people know.
Maybe we'll wait till it comes out, the Record Enterprise Prize, to do a social media blast, send it around. Because that has gotten a lot of people out in the beginning of the master plan and certain times when we've used it, and maybe there's somebody who's not reading the newspaper or watching this that,
I can rejoin the social media world
do
temporarily.
it for you.
to- Yeah. To mention that.
do it on your behalf.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll write a letter to the editor.
Great.
I think we just need to get it to the paper by Tuesday at noon, I think is the Record Enterprise deadline.
Their ad deadline closes, I think, Monday noon. I can't remember.
I think It's Tuesday.
I have to ask.
Or
Okay.
their ad deadline might be, but
Yeah,
their-
probably
but
different.
the press release deadline, which I imagine is the same as the letters to the
Yeah,
editor.
it would be.
Is Tuesday at noon.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
I might have, send it to one of you guys to take a look at. Make sure it doesn't sound too, or maybe make sure it sounds desperate enough. I don't know.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, fun is,
Yeah, just stress the humorous aspect of serving on this board.
the mumbling, the nodding.
a lot of head
Quote from
nodding.
the vice chair.
They'll always bring snacks,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Who wants a mint?
Don't take it personally when he asks.
Can I ask a question about a property? It's I think, a very quick question. Did I miss a meeting, or has the Napa property ever been discussed since it closed?
No,
Okay. Right. I don't know if I missed anything. Thank
We
you.
thought it would be a great place for a natural food store.
Big. It's a big place.
it's huge.
It's a huge place. Yeah. And how long has it been closed? Because I will
A
admit,
month.
I just realized last
Yeah.
week when I pulled on the door.
Which property is this?
The Napa down the road.
Napa and Sannel.
They
Combined,
merged, yeah. Their signs were up. I just had not read them.
Yeah, I mean, they just closed the door, but if you looked in the window, you could see all the inventory.
Right.
But it wasn't evidently a going out of business thing. I believe that they were absorbed by another entity.
Yeah, their sign is with the Sanel.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Are
I didn't know if I
we
missed it.
discussing this tonight, or this application?
Oh, yeah,
No,
so I'm
that's
the only one that ended up with the
16th.
wrong one, huh?
No.
No,
This was sent ahead of time to us.
Yeah,
So this will be,
Yeah,
that's for the next
month,
meeting.
Next meeting. yeah.
okay. Right here then.
All right. Oh, I see, okay. I don't know what I'm looking at here. I have so much paper right now. Let's see what this.
Oh, that's how I get, it's like,
So this is when I was hoping we'd talk about some of our like master, or not, I shouldn't say master plan, our year plan for our master plan implementation. I haven't prepped a lot for that. And I have all this material from Steve's class that we need to distribute. I'm working with the Pemmy Baker TV folks to get a folder that we can just always share. It's going to be read-only, so there's going to be no back and forth, but it's something we can always just access the material. And Bonnie, you can figure out a way to make sure you have access to that stuff as well. But I just figured it was easier to share it that way, so I'm going to get it to Jules, who's then going to get it to a place where everybody can access it. So.
Once that's posted, would it be possible just to print out a copy for Bonnie and then have a copy in a folder at the front desk? Like, so if anybody came in that didn't have access,
Yes.
they could at least ask for the folder. And
And I think this material it's always open and shareable to the public too. There's no reason that, it's all public information, so.
the only information I haven't provided to you guys, because I need to probably do it with a USB, would be the GIS files.
Okay.
Because they're in these folders.
Yeah, I
I
think
couldn't transfer them
those, I think, just need to get somehow institutionalized here. I don't think we need to,
now because they're not useful to me.
no.
And they probably wouldn't be.
I could open them, but I don't really want to.
Okay.
Are they the shape files, Steve?
Yeah, and they're in a series of compressed
They
folders.
should be packaged so you can access all the data with them, so, yeah.
It's a matter of downloading those compressed folders. I didn't just want to send them to you and have you be like, what is that? What are you doing to my
Want me to
email?"
give you a thumb drive after the meeting?
Or I could come to the next meeting prepared to do that, maybe.
Okay.
I'll try to get them on a thumb drive and then let you just borrow that and download it.
Okay, great.
Okay. Make a note to self.
Okay, so, we have just one application for our next, now we have two. Two public hearings for the next one, for the next meeting. Does anyone mind if we save some of this big picture planning for that meeting? Unless, Steve, I don't know if you've got some direction. I just don't have much direction for everybody right now.
This is
The,
like the annual planning.
Yeah.
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 the one, a new case is a simple subdivision. So it should go rather swimmingly, I would think. So we will have, I anticipate that all the business that'll be before you should be done before 7:30.
Yeah. Okay, then I think if that's okay with everyone. And then maybe we'll have like 3 new members that we can have them help us shape the process.
So this will be planning for the year. This won't be working any specifically on the zoning or anything.
I think just getting,
Just getting through the
taking
year.
stock, I think what we need to do is look at what we've done and trying to figure out our direction for the year and fill out, we can even take our calendar here and just be like, okay, when do we need zoning amendments? When do we need certain things? When am I gonna finally look at the site plan regs? So.
Planning and zoning conference, stuff like that.
Yeah, so just set a
Okay.
calendar so we have an idea of what's happening, and what direction we're heading in. I just think it's a good time for us to look at it prior to town meeting and stuff like that, so.
Has this been done before?
I think I talk about it every year, but have we
I
actually?
think it's a great idea. I'm just wondering why it hasn't been done.
I think we did it sort of with Steve one of the years.
Yeah,
Okay.
we talked about it, I think I talked about it a few times last year, but we didn't really get much, and we've done a lot of work in the past year,
Yep.
so.
The hard part is when it gets busy and we try to accommodate, as we did tonight,
Yep.
in a work session, as having applicants, which we do often because we try to keep it as short as we
Yep.
can. That just throws it off.
Yeah.
I think also, but what I'd like to avoid is, every September, October, we're like, oh shoot, it's getting to be zoning amendment season, and do we need to think about that? So we can plan backwards, and figure out when do we determine, it might not be this year we do a massive overhaul. By this year, I mean next year.
Right.
Because what do we need to do to make a zoning change? Because that's kind of what we're aiming towards, but we need a plan to get there, so.
And if we're going to be doing charrettes in process too, that
Right.
Yeah.
it's going to be pretty drawn out.
So I'll get the material to Jules, who will hopefully get everything up she did it shockingly fast the last time you said something. So, so if it takes, it's not going to take a while. I'll do it tomorrow. We'll get that up and shared, and then if we can come prepared with looking at the material from Steve's class, because I think that summarizes a lot of the work that we've done as well. And then maybe another read through of the master plan before the next meeting, I think would be really helpful. Because I think we just need to constantly be reading through it and remembering what it is we said we're going to do. So.
Is this the only calendar we're gonna get? You know, like last time we had one that went from month to month, like.
Oh, no, we
everything.
can get those. I'll make sure that,
Okay.
I don't need a printed copy of that.
Okay.
But I think I had a digital copy.
yeah, because generally those we use downstairs, because it has everybody's schedule on it,
Yeah,
just so
that's
we
what I,
know.
that's what
But
I
I
had
can
like
get you a
last
copy
year.
of that, not a
Right,
problem.
Yeah, I liked it. I take it and just put it on my own calendar.
Yep.
Keep track of what I'm doing.
All right. Anything else from anybody else? There is obviously a glaring vacancy at this table right now, but I think I notice it more than as we're getting ready to leave this meeting. So would somebody like to fill the large shoes and?
Vice chair does that, right?
There you go.
Or is it the recording secretary? I always get those confused.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Nicely done. Thank you.
Aye.